research or all the above?
All of the above.
Okay.
Anything that you feel is relevant, we just want to hear what your opinion is.
And
We
creativity
have
is
a
cool.
few questions.
Oh, there's questions. Okay,
Yeah.
good. That's awesome. I was like, creativity is good. Are we done?
As long as you can like read the question or like number 1, just so we.
Oh, I was reading. I was like, dear so and so, my name is name. I'm currently a student. Okay, got it.
I
All
wrote
right.
that.
That was like the generic email.
That was
I
ours.
no, I totally understand. All right, how would you define creativity? Pass. Would you consider yourself to be a creative? Gosh, no, I missed the memo on creativity. If so, what ways to express your creative nature? Okay, where do you see creativity outside the fine arts? That's why you're looking at how do you do it in the sciences. Do you believe that creativity is something that can be taught? Apparently not in my family. Okay, how would you define creativity? Give me a second.
Go ahead,
time.
take however much time you need. We didn't introduce ourselves, by the way. I'm Tori.
I'm
Nice to
Megan.
meet you.
Megan, hi. How are you?
I'm good.
No,
Bill?
Yeah, I'm
Hi. Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay.
No big deal.
How do you define creativity? I guess it's thinking outside the box. I guess it's doing things like you said earlier in a way that is not prescribed, in a way that's not typical, standard. So and so says that psychologists should do things this way, and that doctors should do this. But creativity is doing it in a way that's not necessarily what's the word I'm looking for? Middle of the road, standard. What everybody else would expect. But I think it's also adding a bit of individual personality.
Mm-hmm.
So being creative, I guess, has to do with also making sure that you as a person are in what you're doing. And I'm not being very eloquent about that. So you can edit this, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's kind of where it comes from, which is funny because as I was reading these questions, and your next question is, would you consider yourself to be a creative person? My gut reaction was no, and yet if I just listen to my own definition of it, well, sure, it's easy to put yourself in what you do. And so maybe I am. I'm not sure. Maybe I am a creative person.
David Huntley thinks you are. So.
Well, thank you, David. Thank you. That's actually really nice to hear because I do actually follow the first part of my own definition, I suppose, in the sense that I kind of will say that while I'll go to workshops and classes on how do you teach or how do you conduct research or whatever, I think that sometimes when you add that aspect of individuality, that personal aspect to it, it becomes a lot more relatable, especially to students.
Yeah.
Yes, am I a creative person? Sure. I would say that in some aspects of it, yeah, definitely. In what ways do you express creative nature in your day-to-day life? Well, we'll compartmentalize my life, I suppose, into first teaching, and then we'll talk about research and maybe other things. But in terms of teaching, the creativity that I guess I try to strive for is to make it relatable to the student. So, I teach a topic that I think a lot of people have in their mind very compartmentalized. Geology equals rocks, right? I mean, think about it. Like, okay, if someone says to you, you want to take a geology class, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Rocks.
Yeah, some people will say earth, and some people will say rocks, minerals. I don't want to take it is usually what comes to mind. Like all that kind of stuff. But having that kind of stigma about it, you then have to kind of make it, okay, how do I make the student interested?
Mm-hmm.
How do I make it so that it's able to be a little more comfortable for them? And the creative aspect then, of course, is how you do that. But I think being able to show students about how it involves you, why I get so jazzed about my own research and stuff that I do, and you see that I've got a lot of stuff about Africa all around my office because I do a lot of research in Africa. Showing them what I do for my research brings into teaching, showing them why I get so jazzed about it. And then it's not just about that kind of image of rocks are hard and they're difficult and I don't want to study that, giving that sense of, this is why it's cool, this is why people study it, this is why it's not just rocks or whatever else. In terms of personal, I guess, examples of how you do that in teaching, videos. Geology is a very visual science. So being able to show pictures and videos and all sorts of, hand samples, literally, grabbing some of the stuff over here and being like, here, so this is what I'm talking about, and you can see all the minerals and how they make something up. Showing students, too, that what I'm teaching is, something that's global. It's not just a local thing. Geology is everywhere. Geologists are needed everywhere. And so relating it to examples, not just here at home, which is important to remember too, but then also, internationally, globally, whatever else. Engaging the students, literally getting them up When I teach about waves and I teach about compression and shear waves, I make my students actually be the shear waves, and they have to run around the room and stuff. So I'm serious. I've done that before too, where I'm sure you guys have probably heard, like the Doppler effect, where the pitch changes. So I usually run around the room screaming, and I'm dead serious. I actually got applause once for this. I was mortified, and my students were clapping, and I was like, "That's great. I'm going to go crawl into a hole." But I'm glad you all enjoyed it, because you literally, you can run around the room screaming, and as you're approaching the students, they hear the pitch change, and as you run by them and go out the room, they hear the pitch drop, and so it's a great way to kind of relate that to them and say this is a weird kind of strange topic, but let's actually visualize the concept by having me run around like an idiot and just do what I want to do, and I think a lot of them remember that.
I'd take your class for that.
No, really, I taught it in IG Greer, and so of course you can imagine me running down IG Greer, going up onto the stage, going across, and then going out the back. And so it was quite
My
nice.
physics teacher did stuff like that. Like, we learned about waves and with slinkies.
My blue slinky is actually up there. But my slinky actually has the world. It has the continents on it.
Perfect.
So I always, just have to bring that. I always bring lasers in and show them how lasers diffract through water and stuff like that. Making it relatable to okay, this hard concept is kind of scary, but when you put a laser through a beaker of water, okay, now I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely a creative sense. But bringing in too, just stories about local stuff, stories about things that I've done, showing that it's not this science, since I teach science, that science is not this kind of hard, difficult, weird thing that's just hanging out there, that everyday real people just do it.
Yeah.
And it's not something that's foreign or frightening or whatever else. That was teaching.
Mm-hmm.
In my research, how do I express? I am a photographer. That's all this stuff. Those are all my pictures.
Really? I was looking.
Yeah.
I was admiring that elephant.
That elephant
Such a
is.
cool picture.
It was. I forget what it was. July, I guess. Sunrise on the Serengeti, although that's the moon. The sunrise is coming up on the opposite side. That's the moon going down over the East African Rift, and there's just
awesome.
this beautiful elephant. So yes, my one creative bone in my body. Like I said, I don't have a whole lot, but I love photography. That is not mine. I really wish it was, but that was a gift I got. But a lot of this other stuff is mine. So yeah, I guess I will kind of say that a bit of creativity for me is, I love taking pictures, and that for me that's a way of capturing what I do. Not only the research part, but then also where I've been. My map on the wall back there shows you where my work has taken me. So I've got lots of pictures of some really awesome foreign places.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's how I take it home. That's how I capture all that. So, while that's not really research related, that's my personal stuff, I guess, I do.
That's okay.
So yeah, that's my day-to-day creativity. I also like to cook. Does that count?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Culinary arts.
Culinary arts. There you go. I love to cook. My husband, of course, has gained a lot of weight since we got married, but he's loving the fact that I do like to cook. Do you want personal life stuff?
Yeah, I mean, anything you want to talk about.
Classically trained piano since I was 6 years old.
And you're not creative?
Well, I was made to do it. You know what I mean? It was you will take piano. I had voice lessons for 15 years, and it was more of a, you will take voice lessons. The voice lesson stuff I love. The piano is very difficult for me. I have little tiny hands, so it never really worked out very well. Yeah, I always had to do this to make sure I could actually. So yes, they are not things I seek out now. They are things that I kind of was trained in when I was younger. But yeah, I do tend to sing a lot too. I've actually kept up with that. So that's personal stuff. I'm not very creative in my research. I just go.
That's a little hard.
I just go.
I use my photography with it, so I will say I can do it with that. Is it creative if you have to learn how to manage a research group?
Yes.
Does that count?
Well, you have to come up with ways of organization and.
I was thinking of more. You have to come up with ways to give incentives to those people that you might be working with.
That's one of the things I've talked about.
Yeah. Hey, we've got to get this paper published, and I haven't heard from you in about a year. What have you been up to? So yes, you have to come up with definitely creative ways of discussing project prioritizations.
Mm-hmm.
That's putting it mildly, I'm sure, but yeah.
And then identification, if you find a fossil on a rock, you have to be obviously your first instinct is just be like, oh, that's the blah 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 from this. You have to use creative thinking to figure out what species it is, what age it came from.
Okay, that ties in really nicely then with some of my research. So what I work on, the picture on the bottom there is we work on some early human footprints. So we're looking at about 400 early Homo sapiens. So they're about 100,000 years old. And so imagine in your mind that you've just got this flat surface that's got tons of footprints all over it. You see that and you're like, wow, this is awesome. But then the questions, of course, that arrive are, well, who made them and how and when and how many and how big were they and were they adults or children or males or females? We're actually able to kind of delve into the morphology of the prints, how long they are, how deep they were, and all that sort of stuff. And I can tell you that we actually do know that. We know that there were only 2 to 3 males. We know that the rest were females and kids. We know that there were probably some relatively small juveniles based on, foot size. And we're actually teasing out a little bit of behavior. We think it was a foraging group. So I guess that's a creative way of looking at data.
Yeah, definitely.
So by all means, we definitely do that in our research realm too. My research group is great about that, pulling out some really neat stuff. We've got evidence of barefoot running, so we're doing a whole lot of neat stuff with that.
That's so cool.
I am more creative than I thought I was.
There we go.
Wow.
See, that's the whole point of our project.
All right, cool. Okay. Where do you see creativity outside of the fine arts? Wow. Define the fine arts.
Well, in this aspect, we're just thinking things like
visual
dance,
art,
music, visual art,
writing, theater, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Teaching. Across the curriculum. I mean, anybody. See part 1 of this discussion, I guess. Anybody who is a teacher and has to stand up in front of a group of people. We are doing quite a bit of media associated with this project, actually. I guess I don't know if that falls in the fine arts because you mentioned writing, but also photography and stuff. But we're writing some neat things associated with this project, and it's actually going to be in National Geographic in next month.
Wow.
I didn't do that, but we're able to take the research that we're working on and work with others that are putting it together. So that's kind of neat. I'm really jazzed about that. I know. No, that's fine arts. Dang it. Well, I know a geographer who actually brings in a lot of local Appalachian songs to his geography class.
Huh.
So that's the blending of kind of science with fine arts. Where do I see creativity?
Well, like the main things we're focusing on in our paper are the fine arts, education, and then leisure and manual labor and work. So, if any of that, like, what is your opinion on how would you find creativity in work and leisure?
The leisure stuff is all that other good stuff I was talking about, the cooking and the all that sort of great stuff. What else did we say? We talked about cooking. We talked about all the other piano and music.
Yeah, photography.
Definitely love music. Definitely photography. I don't know if that fit in the fine arts, but that's okay, right?
Yeah.
Even outside the discipline of fine arts.
Just outside the typical what people picture.
Like when you hear the fine arts, you think music, dance, theater.
So I don't go act in plays, but I love music.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I'm a huge 80s music buff. So don't let that get out, but I'm seriously stuck in the 1980s. My hair doesn't show it, but that's okay.
It's really good thing.
It used to. Oh, yes. I lived in the Jersey Shore in the 1980s.
Uh-oh.
Edit that. Yes. Let's see, what else? I'll come back to that. I gotta think more. Do you believe that creativity is something that can be taught? I'm going to say that I believe it's something that can be nurtured. I'll use a different word if that's okay. Because I think that, when I look at myself versus my sister, so my sister was this very tall, very thin, very beautiful woman who was great at dance. And I was like, wow, she got all the creative stuff. I was always the field hockey player. That's a very different morphology there, and so I cannot be taught to be creative in terms of things like dance. I don't think I would be, because it's not in me, because it's not part of who I am. I think, yes, you can be taught it, here, this is how you do a pirouette, this is how you do ballet. But I don't think that you'll actually ever own it if you don't really love it, if it's not part of you. So I think that there's maybe a little difference in the terms. Can it be taught? Yes, but do you actually have it inherently.
Cultivate it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. When you say nurture it, it may be that, you may not know that you love dance until you take your first class. But then when you realize that you love it, okay, then it blossoms. But for me, when I took my first, drama class, and they said be a rock, and I was like, really? I want to study them. I don't want to be them. And so once you realize that too, you say, okay, maybe this part of it is not for me, and you can